meeting of the Conservation Commission for November 5th open. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from October 15th.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Give me a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, first on our new public hearings, we have 194 South Main Street. I'm going to read it into the record. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended, and the West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw, Rules and Regulations, and the West Bridgewater Stormwater Management Bylaw, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing November 5th, 2019, in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a notice of intent filed by PMP Associates on behalf of Justine Hong, trustee, Happy for Realty Trust, to replace an existing cesspool with a compliant Title V septic system and stormwater management adjacent to the wetlands and its buffer zone at 194 South Main Street. We're open.
These are the mailings, and
Alrighty.
if I could just say something to the commission members, I presented you what I'm going to be used as my meeting notes for tonight. So I've got it kind of set up as the way the agenda goes, and so rather than giving a meeting report, you can see under agent discussion concerns, it's bold, and it basically tells you what my concerns are, which would be in a meeting report. So we're trying to eliminate an extra step in all of this. So just refer to that, and I'll read it anyway. But that's where my notes would be instead of a meeting report. Thank you.
All right.
Monday, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You're gonna open with new business
All the new hearings, we typically open first,
and you don't listen?
and then we go right into the old business after.
Okay.
All right, good evening. Greg Driscoll of Jacobs Driscoll Engineering and PMP Associates here tonight representing Lucky for Realty Trust and Justine Hwang, who's here with us as well. So pretty much this project is to for a new septic system, and also Justine is a new owner of the property within the past year or so, I believe, and to correct some work that the previous owner had done with some bit of an alteration to the buffer zone and the wetland, and we have shown on the plans restoration to that area. So that's pretty much what we're looking to do here. So the property is located at 194 South Main Street, replacing a failed septic system, and so the property is zoned business, and it's on the westerly side of South Main Street. It's bordered by residential uses to the north and east of the property, automotive electronic business to the south, and used car dealerships across the street to the west. So, and then areas to the north are zoned general residential farming. The northwest and south are zoned business, and to the east is zoned, general residential farming. Wetland resource areas were originally delineated by Robert Gray of Sebacia Inc. Back in 2009 for a similar scope of work that was never completed. So I believe this was all permitted before all this work, but the previous owner never went forward with the work. So that contains bordering vegetated wetland, 50-foot no disturbance zone to BVW, and 100-foot buffer zone to BVW as well. The wetlands are located on the easterly and southerly portions of the site. So back in here and along here, on that whole property line, is all wetland resource areas. So there's also back further, not shown on the plan, portion of the property that's undeveloped is BLSF for floodplain area. It's an undeveloped portion of the lot that doesn't really affect the work that we'll be doing. There's no other resource areas such as Zone 2 or anything like that on the site. So, and as the work area is about 3,660 square feet. We have also filed for a administrative stormwater permit along with this notice of intent. And that's pretty much the overall the project. We are showing erosion controls on site to protect the wetlands and the work that's being done in the buffer zones from sedimentation and erosion. We're also showing a stone trench off the existing parking lot. The filter fabric around it to help mitigate stormwater coming off that existing parking lot. The requisite wetland markers, concrete, and watering pump out areas, all that type of stuff that we typically show on the notice of intent and stormwater management plans for projects such as these. So that's about it. Turn over to the board if any questions or agent has a report. I believe we got Patrick from our office might be done prior to the final. Just that's the project.
John, you want to give your report first before we?
Sure. So, this area here is where the previous owner encroached into the wetlands. So the flagged wetland is at the tip of end of the 10. And he encroached out in here because the site is so constricted. It's got, as you can see, a lot of building, a lot of businesses and different varied uses within the building. So it generates quite a bit of parking. Today's visit there showed cars just scattered all over the place, equipment put out into this back area here. This pre-existing dirt berm that's shown on here, that's not there. It was actually pushed into the wetland. So the previous owner and current businesses are putting their equipment, extra vehicles, those kind of things in that area. So I have no issue with having the restoration of the wetlands that have been filled in, according to what is shown on sheet number 2 of your package. I do have an issue with just putting up PVC pipes in this area here. The end of my pencil is basically a line of PVC pipes with markers that designate that it's a conservation area and not to be disturbed. Because of the various tenants that are using this business, property, I would think it would be very difficult for any owner of the property to control what the tenants do on a day-to-day basis. So I'm recommending the restoration as planned out by PMP Associates. I have no issue with the septic system being the way it's designed and placed on the property. It's a real plus for the environment and for the public health. But I do feel that this pea stone trench that you see here needs to have the same stone block wall that's behind the septic system placed there as a barrier to prevent the tenants from going out into that area, because as you can tell, most of it's the 50-foot buffer, which is a no-touch disturbed buffer here in West Bridgewater. So no issue with the plan, except for I'm recommending that that be done. I don't know where the owner plans to have the snow disposed of. It's not shown on the plan, but I'm recommending that it not be something that be allowed under the order conditions, and I'm also recommending that that area be a designated conservation easement area. so that we'd actually have a recorded conservation restriction on that portion, so that what has happened in the past will not happen again.
Right. One of my questions was the snow storage area. I know in a lot of plans we've had recently, we do ask or require that. Could you maybe designate where you would have that on the plan if there's to be snow storage? If not, then it'd be a condition to have it removed after a snow event?
Yeah, it would have to be the best location for the areas over here, and probably kind of coordinate
The gravel
this,
pad,
this
yeah.
area back in here.
It's not really feasible because there's a garage door that enters the building here, so you can't really pile it up in that area. And that's the only reason that I didn't suggest pulling that back, so that you had more of the 50-foot protected, but they have to get into that garage, so that's why it's there.
Anybody have any other questions? I think it's a very developed piece of property. There's not, like John said, a lot of wiggle room.
Okay. Could we use the wall blocks spaced out, or boulders, or I could let the water kind of, the water that's coming off of this going in unimpeded?
Well, it's supposed to run off into this keystone diaphragm.
Mm-hmm. Eventually it'll, that's just kind of like the filter, that'll fill up and overflow that way, right?
Yes, so you probably
space
want
them
to
out,
probably want to have a small gap between the blocks,
Okay.
and I don't mean big enough to.
We want to keep it tight so that nobody can put a vehicle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would boulders be another option? Also? That way you can look at the project as
I wouldn't recommend boulders. They can be pushed around. It's harder to push a concrete block wall.
What's out behind the building now? Is it just
Wetlands.
wetlands? Well, I mean, except for where they've been parking trucked equipment and
Yeah, where that tree shows up on that corner.
right here.
Yeah, that's all wet in there. I'm surprised it hasn't blown over due to the.
so they're gonna
shallow-
need some type of access, I'm assuming, to do maintenance on the back of the building from time to time. Walking around it, so putting a permanent fence type structure to
Oh, yeah.
block it would probably be prohibitive to get back there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. The boulders or blocks or concrete blocks would be a way to, you could at least walk over them to get
Yeah.
behind the building to work without having to.
Sure, fire the one
With gates.
all the way around the board as well.
Right.
Did you have any more to
It's a
add?
fence, actually it was next to the building a little bit where the tree is. There's a little road that we're trying to save as a fire escape from the back too.
Oh, that's right, yeah, this back here coming back from this corner right there.
Yeah, so we want to
You
make
want
sure
people to
that
be able
we
to
have
walk
fire
around.
escape, people can walk around.
Does Marcus see Marcus back there?
It's like the stream, in between the stream and the buildings, I think, what, 5 foot?
About that, a little more.
So
Right.
that's why we wanted to make sure we have that walkway for fire escape
Okay.
safety.
So we'll leave a bit of a gap right here. We'll be able to walk through.
So,
Currently, right now, there's an exit back in here,
oh what?
Yeah, that's what
There's a-
we want
there's a
for the
door.
safety.
and there's an exit in the fire escape area.
So the back right has a door and then they walk around behind the back of the building
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, for fire safety aspect, kind of perspective at
So what do they walk on?
Um,
Or what do they walk on?
Right now, it's just, it's a road that we haven't really cleaned. That was the plan that we want to make sure that the building is compliance. That's what's our next step is we want to make sure that part of this review is we have a path from the back. We just walk around there for Safety.
Did you have a building department or a fire department out that looked at the area?
They did. We did. First thing we want to make sure was our building's compliance with the town's code. So our fire department has reviewed, and we have our architects have reviewed, and that's what part of this update was also. We know it's part of the environmental, but we want to make sure we comply with fire.
So is there a plan of that access pathway?
In
or-
our planning, yeah. We had a drawing, but I don't have it with me. Mike, outside have so much the map.
I would say that's gotta be on the plan, so. I'd feel uncomfortable closing the hearing and not knowing what that really looks like. Because it's,
Show that.
this is a 20 scale drawing.
I mean, it's gonna fall within the 50 foot, so it means another filing after the fact if they're gonna be doing work back there to put in a pathway. So, be better to put it on this plan, have it all on one now, and,
And there's like, by eyeball, it looks as if there's 3 feet between the building and the wetland line. So it leaves very little room for margin in that area.
Well,
And we have
just enough to walk through.
well, no plan to use the wetland anything behind it. That's why first thing I filed to the tax commissioner was that's a wetland.
So I can see the need for a path because of the safety issues of the building, but for fire, emergency. But we gotta know where it is, how it's going to be constructed, that kind of thing. Because there isn't a path there now.
No,
any
So-
other,
It's just.
So if it's just muck, let's just say it's muck, because it's right next to the wetlands. They're gonna have to dig out that very soft soil, mucky soil, put down some gravel so that people can walk on it without having them sink up over their ankles in mud, let's say. And that is disturbing the land adjacent to the wetland. So it's very important to have all this information shown so the commission can make a decision, which probably will be favorable, but we have to know how it's gonna be constructed and how you get a machine in there in that
you can't.
4-foot space. So it'll have to be a very small machine. There has to be some protection to the wetland itself while you're digging up that strip. So that's all that's gotta be shown on the plan. So I'm gonna recommend a continuance, even though my report has
right,
that.
I wanna see the plans and the. Are there any other doorways or exits
There is.
on that side of the building?
On the back side, no. Not that, that's, they're going.
And as you face it to the right-hand side along the,
Yeah, nothing else along here.
are there
Yeah,
any
It's just a
other?
walking path with trees surrounded right now. It is a walkable path with trees.
Around.
It's not. a
All the way to the
mountain.
front?
Yeah, all the way to
And
the
then
front.
around this way.
Yeah, it's just trees surrounded, pine trees surrounded, yeah. It's walkable area.
And you're just gonna leave it as it is? You're not planning on doing anything to that?
No, only
Good.
thing, we were thinking about fence it up if we could, so that nothing can go beyond the wetland.
So fence about 4 feet or so off the building.
Yeah, so we fence it so people won't go there.
Would it be possible to put another exit door that would be feasible to be accessible on that building? I don't know, I just got a question. Would it be feasible to put another exit door? Would it be easier or more accessible than having to get into the wetlands there?
We already have 2 doors in the front of each unit.
I don't know if there's any.
I don't know, just
Any way
a
to put a
question.
door on that back.
Yeah, we could,
You could.
yeah, we Yes, yeah, it's like, we just need a little leeway
Yeah,
in
from-
between.
But the only door out is in the back corner currently.
No,
right there.
there's no door now, it's down the
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, you're planning,
Yeah,
so it's,
put it in.
okay.
So we do have the garage and a door for each unit, there's 2 access in the front right now.
So we're gonna have to see all that. I'm
Any
looking
other-
at Google Earth to see if we can come up with. Anything that would help us this evening. So Google Earth shows cars and other things in this area?
Oh, that was the old owner. The old owner had, that's why the old owner had a renter that who put the car there. So after we bought the building, that renter already moved away. So there's no car parking there at all. I can show you, I have my video. So we have surveillance video camera on site.
Obviously, nobody did a site plan review on this property. I mean, that is unbelievable. It does seem to indicate,
Those trucks are on the, parked on the right-hand side. Right up in between the building.
so we're gonna have to see it on plan so that they can make a good decision. Where the planned exit doorways will be, the width, the construction of the sidewalk, erosion control that will be used while the walks are being constructed.
Would the commission like to see the fence that they're proposing along the walkway to keep people out of the way? Or is that how they concerned?
Sounds like a good idea.
Horse around?
And that, now that I'm looking at this Google Maps, but the area where the cars are parked in the corner,
Right.
within the 50 foot of,
There or here?
yeah, that, is it gravel now or is it pavement?
It shows.
It looks like it
here to
went through a fence that,
It's rocks.
now I'm looking to the right,
Yeah.
that area there, yeah, is that,
I don't know.
can you get access to, looking at,
I don't know about that.
picture I'm looking at, looks like there's access there to park vehicles.
Can you see it? Let's see if I can get it.
Was that from the neighbors?
John, I think, I'm pretty sure we're looking at the same.
Yep.
Yeah. That's well within the 50 foot.
Yeah, so that one isn't showing any.
Can I take a look? Let me see.
There- Are there cars parked there?
No, that's why we're saying that was the old owner
Right.
that had the business and parked there. We.
So is it all gravel or is
Yeah, all-
it grass
it's
or just, what's there
It's just
now?
rocks
Okay,
with grass on
all
top.
right.
So we already.
Yeah, because I saw a different Google map than the one that's popping up on my phone right now, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's 2016 shows what looks like blacktop. You wanna take a look at that?
Yeah, I'm trying to show you my camera, but I don't.
That looks like blacktop to me.
It's all rocks there, nothing.
Rocks,
Yeah,
They put gravel down?
yeah. We put rocks.
like stone
Yeah,
dust or
stone.
something?
So the tenants, whoever took that space, we moved them out because we knew we had the compliance. First thing we bought was we make sure we have the building compliance.
Use and abuse, not you.
yeah, previous owners took a lot of liberty on this one. I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing till the 19th?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moving and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and we should be able to, I think, get that stuff on the plan for the 19th and,
All right.
all righty, thank you.
It has to get in enough time to meet the deadline on the published deadline. So it can't be the 19th. It's gonna be the week before.
Excuse me, just a question. Unless another person shows up, if you're gonna have not be able to chair, would there still be a quorum?
The chair can sit but not act in order to keep a quorum. Out of necessity, there's an exemption that's allowed. So if nobody else shows up, I just sit here and say nothing and do nothing, and I'm just it goes to the next person to run the meeting. I just sit here to keep a quorum. Okay. Next we have 133 Brooks Place. I'll read that in when we're setting up. Under the Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 of Mass General Law is amended. The West Bridgewater Wetland Protection Bylaw Rules and Regulations, the West Bridgewater Storm Management Bylaw. The West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing the 5th of November 2019 in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for notice of intent filed by Collins Engineering Group on behalf of Donna Usmer for an upgrade of an existing septic system for a single-family home located within the vicinity of a bordering vegetative wetland at 133 Brooks Place. And you have cards?
I do.
Those. Thank you.
I guess I'll set it over here. So, good evening. My name is Dave Clark from Collins Civil Engineering Group, and we're here tonight to for a notice of intent for a repair on the septic system for 133 Brooks Place. The plan has shown the green line is a wetland delineation by Brook Monroe. The orange is the 50-foot buffer, the pink is the 100-foot buffer, the yellow is across the property line that comes across the whole sheet. The existing system is out in the front of this, the house. There is a wetland across from Brooks Place, which is going to be the closest that we come to for our construction, within 44 feet to the silt fence. The existing system sits in front, so we want to push everything out in the front to continue the plumbing in the house. It's a septic tank to a field, which is pretty much in the water table. The field is outside the 50. What we propose is to move the new field further away from the wetlands on our side of the street, about the same distance from the wetlands across the street, which is about 75 feet. We're proposing a silt fence that's going to start at the house corner here, work to the Brooks Place, work in front of the street, and work out to the back of the property, so it surrounds the limit of work. The silt fence along the street is planning on being removed during the day for work, and then sweeping and replacing the silt fence at the end of the day. This is a slightly mounted system when you get towards the rear of the system, but up in the corner, in the southwest or southeast corner, it's pretty much flat. We have a 151 and a 151 and 152 up there, so it's just about a foot above the street line at that southwest corner. And it is a pump system. It will have a tank into a pump where the first main into the system.
And the work is planned to be done this fall?
I'm not sure.
Winter or?
I assume that they want to start ASAP.
It's for sale.
Yes.
Yeah, we do
John,
have stuff by
questions,
Larry.
comments?
Dewatering.
So, I recommend, I have no issues, none whatsoever on this one.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
The abutter came in, one abutter, to the right as you're looking at the, and he went over the plan today with me, and he seems to be very satisfied, so no issues with him.
Any questions, comments, anybody in the audience? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. I will entertain a motion to issue a standard order of conditions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have 13 and 15 Stony Road.
Well, not sure why the engineer isn't here.
Temporarily skip over that and move on to the next one.
I would say give it a shot, that he
Yeah,
may
if
be
he
running
shows
late.
up. All right. Next, then we have Charles Street, or 307 River Street, lots 1, 2, 3, 4 Charles Street. And this is for stormwater management under our general bylaw. I will read one into the record, but we will open all four at once. So, under the West Bridgewater Comprehensive Stormwater Management Regulations, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing the 5th of November, 2019, in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a general stormwater management permit requested by Professional Land Surveyor Associates on behalf of Briarwood Construction Corporation to review his proposal to construct 4 single-family homes with associated site work along Charles Street, Separate map 45, lot 96, and the property's address is 307 River Street. And we're open.
Good evening, my name is Sean Hardy. I'm a professional engineer for Professional Land Survey Associates. I have both the white
Yep.
cards and the green cards. For you. Thank you. As you said, the project on Charles Street at the intersection with River Street, it's an existing lot that's about 136,000 square feet. It's proposed, actually it's been subdivided into 4 parcels. So based on the land disturbance, we're here asking for a stormwater permit. There's, in the table, we had we're treating it with the stormwater design we did. The lots end up being roughly approximately 35,000 square feet. What we did is we proposed, because the houses are all the same size, the proposed driveways are the same width. The only difference is some are slightly further back or longer. They range from like 70 to 71 feet. We designed it as for an impervious area of 3,316 square feet, and kind of did the same design just for consistency for each of the lots. That ends up being a reduction for all the storms 2 through the 100. In addition, it provides a recharge volume of, you guys have the 125% requirement over the stormwater management policy. So the required volume for the recharge volume is 207 cubic feet, and we're providing 508 cubic feet per lot. So the existing sites, and they're generally the same, so I'll just here with the lot 1, which is the furthest one in. Generally, it slopes from this back corner of the lot in the southeast direction, kind of towards Charles Street, ultimately down to that corner on River Street. So the proposal is to collect the roof runoff and direct it to these chambers, as well with the driveway sloped out, a proposed trench drain to collect the runoff, come back to a deep sump manhole, which would provide the extra removal of the oil and grit and sediments before it got infiltrated. Additionally, and again, we show each lot stormwater control, erosion controls around the property line where any runoff would go, not knowing necessarily whether these would be built one at a time or all at the same time. So if they were built all at the same time, generally I think the ones on these lot lines in between the lots would probably not need the erosion controls, but we show it on all of them, just again not knowing how it's going to be constructed necessarily. generally, it's a cornfield now, so with the disturbance that we're showing is basically the whole lot because it's gonna be proposed to be boomed and seeded in the back, so that's why we trigger that's such the high number. It's not really a high number of impervious area per lot, but would be a disturbance just because it's gonna be, cleared, it's gonna be grubbed out, it's gonna be boomed and seeded and have lawns for the proposed residences. Like I said, that, I'm showing lot 1, I can scroll through the different lots if you.
All 4 lots
if you
will access Charles Street?
Yes, they will.
Okay.
And I can. So lot 1, the next one, lot 2, same thing, that's about 71 feet off the street. The next one down, lot 3, again, same thing, and then the last one that you asked about at the intersection with River and Charles, it's the same thing, it faces the house onto Charles. The septic system would be out the back of that, but like we said, generally they're all basically the same thing times 4, so I don't know if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
John, comments?
None, I have no concerns. It's a well-done plan.
Yes.
Question.
Yep.
My mother and I, 311 River Street, Jim Thomas. My question is, my mother's clothesline in her backyard, if you go directly from that to Charles Street, where that dip is, and the low, that's wet till, middle of summer. That's all wet, there's water laying in there. And even Clinton, her father and stuff would have to wait until that whole area dried up before they could get the tractors in there.
At the corner?
No, it's in the middle. The way it's positioned, my mother's clothesline's in the back of the yard. So it's in the backyard. So it's probably, if that trailer, if you almost straight going over Charles Street, that trailer is right there. But that whole low area where it dips in from the front of River Street, then goes up on the hill, that low area is wet most of summer or in the spring. And that water is in there.
So it's like lot 2 and 3 maybe?
Something like that, yeah. If you come off of River Street, start going north before you get across on the hill in that low lane. There's water lays in there.
Yeah, topography wise, maybe it was a low spot just because, like you said, it was an agricultural use and it was, it's been worked and reworked and, granted for a while, I don't know that there's too much activity out there, but I don't think we saw anything that triggered wetlands per se.
Are you changing the grading, or are you pretty much leaving it except for...
We're leaving it generally the same. I mean, you can even see it's with the contours there, they're plus or minus a foot, so as they're out there working it. But primarily just to get the driveway to slope in the direction and to grade for the proposed septic system. But other than that, we're not really proposing much.
Okay, if you don't change it, that water's gonna lay there. And
Right,
if
it
the
looks like
house-
between lots 2 and 3, the topography goes from 81 down to 76.
Right, there's a big dip
Right,
there,
there's a-
so if you
Right.
put
And
the,
it kind of holds it, and
it holds the water, plus the fact is, I mean, I've been, yeah, I'm 64, my mother's been there since 1952. But that whole area, I used to hay and stuff like that when I was a kid, but that water lays in there until probably June. It takes another 4 to 6 weeks after it stops raining for that actually to harden up and dry up in that low spot.
yeah, they normally plant the corn late in there.
Correct, they have to, because if they don't, they can't get in there.
So
And I don't see anything in our topography that shows that, so.
I think
maybe
it's
not
just-
that just getting
Right, no,
contour.
again,
I'm not doubting it, but I'm.
Yeah, I think it's more
the
the...
back of lot 2 and 3, is that where you're seeing it?
Yeah, it's-
Sir?
Okay, June Metcalf, I'm at 268 River Street, West Bridgewater. Okay, I lived at the house on 307 River Street. I also grew up on that farm. And just for incidental information, the area he's talking about, there is a dip. And at one point, there was a drain that went from there to the pond across the street. And it is a wet area. And my other question is,
So if you
Um,
get-
the stonework on the corner of River Street and Charles, what's gonna happen to that stonework that used to be a pick and shop and old? Is that gonna stay there or is it gonna be removed?
Well, in order for them to get a building permit, it has to clear, well, there's no tear down, it's already been done, right?
Well, it's the wall, actually, the
wall's
back,
there.
the back wall, and that was from a shop from her great-grandfather. And they actually made the windmills there, Howard, at windmills back in the 1800s. That was a windmill shop.
You're not interested in that.
Yes, mother. But that,
Yeah, it looks like, at least on the plans, it looks like they're gonna grade that right down to the street on that corner.
Yeah, I mean, they're proposed.
Actually, they
Yeah,
don't
lot-
show it.
We don't,
Lot 4, it doesn't even show the structures there or anything on this
well,
plan.
there's no
so-
structure, it's just the basement.
Right, it's just the
Right,
foundation wall that's like
two walls.
two sides,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't the town put a
Yeah.
drain in there?
yeah, we got kind of shaded out with the
Yes, I did.
photocopy, but, yeah.
And they haven't found any drains further up that would cross under the street on Charles Street.
We didn't see any, but. yeah,
So I
it's-
can see the low spot that the residents are mentioning. It's behind the house, probably right where somebody wants their garden, their pool, and their gazebo.
Take a peek over there, or is that, if I look, can I look?
Yeah. To the back of lot 2.
Well, that goes all the way almost to the street, from, into Charles Street, that low area.
Yeah.
So there probably was some old stone culvert, some stone drain that went from there over, just because that's what farmers did to dry up the
Correct,
field.
yeah.
Um,
And I believe the town put a drain in the corner of that building area.
Where the stonework is?
Uh-huh. So you need to know about that before you fill it in, I would think.
Well, my other question is on this, and I was talking to Sean Anderson yesterday, in regards to Charles Street, River Street, that corner, when it rains, that whole area is swamped. And even at night, when the runoff from Charles Street comes down, and right now the Charles Street then gets into that corner, there's a drain there. But out in front of Ricky Freitas's house and even that field in the pond in that corner, that is real low. There could be a foot, 1.5, 2 foot of water there on both sides. Now, I don't know if this is going to affect the water runoff from Charles Street coming down, because it does come down now. And since there was snow and stuff and this and it was easy drain, where would the houses in there and then the water coming off the, he mentioned a couple things, coming off the driveway into Charles Street, put a buffer on or something, so the water doesn't come off the house or anything on Charles Street into that mess. Because that's a real mess when it's heavy rains. River Street is almost a foot of water there by the end of Charles Street, just probably 30, 20 feet east of Charles Street on River Street going east. That's all covered with water, sometimes a foot, almost a foot on and you can only get in the middle, so you got people going in the middle of the road.
So what you're saying is it ponds up in that stone foundation area on that corner of Charles
Yeah.
and River,
Yeah,
overflows and goes down River Street to,
well, in front of Clint Howard's house, his driveway, and then goes east, because he's right across the street from Charles Street. But Charles Street east, heading over to Ricky Freitas's house, that's all underwater when it heavy rains, because all the water comes down River Street, and that's the low spot there.
Yeah, and it runs off into the field
Right,
South.
correct, on
between,
Clint Howard's field
and,
and Ricky Freitas's and
on the other
Anderson.
side.
Well, Anderson's got that field that comes down, but normally doesn't go there. It goes into Clint Howard's field. But the road there is always underwater. In heavy rains, the runoff comes, I mean, there's 2 inches, 2.5 inches coming down River Street, and it just goes down and then just floods down there. So I'm not saying this is gonna affect it or make it worse or whatever, however, but I just don't want this
You mean in the street, right?
in the street, correct?
Not on the property.
Yeah, because it drains down Charles, downriver, and at that
Correct.
intersection, it just
Because
floods it out.
It floods it out. It could be sometimes the heavy rains, it could be a foot high, foot deep there. So I just wanna make sure that this isn't gonna affect that or whatever, however.
Well, his design shouldn't make it any worse. The
Okay.
way he's got the French drains and everything to collect the water from the development of the property.
Okay,
But
see,
Elevation shows being better, whether it's noticeably better or not, it's not, I mean,
Right.
The concern I have is not with what he has designed for the house lots, but the idea on lot 4 at that intersection, we don't know whether the drain is there or not. And
I mean, that's, we had 73.
No, it'd be right on the very
72,
corner.
71, So, I mean, we're way high,
yeah, it's not gonna affect the house lot, but if they fill it in or fill it over, it could affect the street drainage for the town. So we wanna make sure that that doesn't happen. And I don't even know if it's there. I mean,
I don't know either. I know on the other side, there's one,
June seems to know that.
I believe the town put it in there and didn't ask a relative, so there was about it, so you might wanna check and just make sure, and if it, for some reason, if it is filled in, I mean, it's already kind of a nightmare. My sister has a garden not far from there, and the area is already wet, and so if this doesn't drain right and more water comes, you know, my side of River Street is gonna have even more water.
well, we're not proposing any grading over there, but certainly with lumen and seeding, if something comes up or it gets noticed, then I would certainly, I mean, I don't know if these permits have conditions or not, but if there was one that was gonna be found, again, we haven't seen it, but it would be okay to preserve it. It would be in the best interest of the property too. You know what I mean? 'Cause
So it needs to be looked into, but I think the stormwater permit could be conditioned on that be investigated and protected if it's there.
it would be perfectly acceptable.
Right. Any other questions?
no, those are just my concerns about that low area, because I've been out there in June and it's been dry for, 6 to 8 weeks and still have mud in that area. So I didn't know if they're gonna put a house there in that low spot, whatever.
No, but it would be the backyard of that house and
They might not be mowing the lawn until July 1st every year, but that's.
Okay, well, I'm just,
Right,
You know what
it's-
happens when you go and you mix it up in lumen
Right.
and,
Once it's got the grass seed
Kind of,
and it's a lawn area.
right,
yeah, versus agricultural, it's
Right.
kind of bare
Right.
soil until it gets growing again type
Yeah.
of stuff, hopefully.
yeah, just into my other concern, water getting into the pond across the street
Yeah.
too. That, and then the water going down to Charles Street, down to River Street, and clogging all that up, making more of a mess on River Street drainage down there.
Yeah, and they've got proposed erosion control around the entire site during construction, so that should hopefully keep it from getting in and out. The one thing I didn't notice, and I know we've had on other projects, is construction entrances.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't mention, we have a detail of one and we show
Okay.
them at each of the driveways.
And it's gonna be where the
Such time-
driveways are, okay.
Yeah, and again, I show 4 of them, one for each lot.
Yeah.
That doesn't make much sense if you're building 2 of these at once or something, but they're there.
Okay.
just in case they
Yeah.
do one at a time.
Right. Good point, sorry, I didn't mention.
Any other questions? Comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I will entertain a motion to issue a general stormwater management permit for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Right. And do we have anybody here for 1315 Stony Road?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Open the hearing. Under the West Bridgewater Comprehensive Stormwater Management Regulations, the West Bridgewater Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in the Brown McDonald Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, for a stormwater management permit request by David Cruz for construction of single-family dwellings and septic systems associated with grading at numbers 13 and 15 Stony Road. And we're all set, and what are we doing?
I'm not sure. Okay, you tell me what you need.
All right,
We've got the plans.
these two lots are the existing Form A lots that were at the street. And it doesn't have anything to do with the rear land at this point. And so they had presented the site plan showing how the site is going to be constructed. And my only comment about the plans is that the engineer has to show a dedicated construction entrance, a compound area. The Conservation Commission needs to inspect the roof drains before backfilling to make sure that they get in, and installation of erosion control barriers along Stony Road to prevent sediments from running off in the stormwater and out onto the street. So all that can be part of the conditions of the stormwater permit. So other than those comments, I didn't have any issues with the project, both of them.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
And I apologize for the fact that 13 and 15 look the same because they are two 15s instead of a 13 and a 15 site plan. So, but I have 13 here in case anybody wanted to look at it.
All right, any questions? Not, and if you can get those changes made and put onto the plan, then I'll entertain a motion.
Immediately.
I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
We'll move, and I'll entertain a motion to issue a general stormwater management permit with the requirements as noted.
I will make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. The only continued public hearing we had was for map 60, lot 22, South Street, which has been asked to continue to February. So I will entertain a motion to continue.
I will make the motion.
Second.
Moving second, all those in favor?
Aye.
And the only other thing I'm going to want to discuss with this one is, this is now going to be about 12 months since their original filing.
I was gonna
They're going to need to notify abutters again. We can,
Should be at least
have to be,
5 days before the public hearing, continued public hearing. So I would recommend that the commission vote to require the applicant to re-notify abutters, provided they're gonna go forward on the 18th of February.
I mean, if they decide to continue again in February, then
Then,
they won't have to notify, but they need to be, I think, on notice that if they're
so what
gonna,
would be the date by which they'd have to notify? 2 weeks before?
I would say, let's say 2 weeks. I
2
guess.
weeks.
Okay.
Gives plenty of time.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll make a motion.
To
Second.
require, okay, move to second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. All right. We have next on the agenda listed 48 Clinton Road, request certificate of compliance.
I've inspected it, and reviewed all the documents and recommend issuing a certificate without a bond.
Okay. All right, any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, next we have 245 South Street, unpermitted activity within a BDW. And I'm excusing myself. And I'm going to let Lee take over. Now that we have a quorum, I do not have to use necessity as a reason to stay.
All right, so bring everybody up to date. At the last hearing, we discussed the issue with trash, lawn mowing debris, tree limbs, and other debris being pushed out into the wetlands. And because the landowner who owns the wetlands needs to be part of this discussion, we ask that Mr. and Mrs. or one of the other come in, and Mrs. Metcalf is here this evening. I think that I presented enough documents or discussion to indicate that there is a definite wetland violation there with the way the machine was used to push debris back into the wetland, and that was not permitted. And so I think the commission would be in a position, as long as the property owner of the wetlands allowed the person who altered the wetlands to pull it back out because it is on her property, that we require it to be restored.
Okay. So I guess I would say,
So,
what would you like to do there?
okay, so we have talked.
Yes,
So-
have you looked at the property?
I haven't been.
You're just going by what he's saying, correct?
No, well,
Okay.
can I just say something?
Sure.
Okay. I'm June Metcalf, 268 River Street. My husband's home, he didn't feel good, so he didn't come. So, the land that's there is basically a virgin forest. We're trying to keep it from being developed. So that's a blessing for you because you're not going to have houses.
Absolutely.
And for years and years, people have thrown, washing machines, whatever, back there. And so, anyways, so Pat has said a tree fell on his property, and I think he just tried to clean it and put it back there.
Yep.
And so I didn't know if it's possible, now that he knows, we own the property, if he would just consider, the lawn clippings, maybe he could compost them for his garden, or put them, take them to the dump or whatever. And can the present lawn clippings stay where they are? And, as long as as long as it's stocked, that's my question. Because when Ron and I cut down trees, basically we have brush from cutting down the trees, and the policy has been with the foresters that have come in, etc. That brush makes home for the animals, etc. to stay. And so, and then the water, the wood deteriorates and all that stuff, and it actually makes the soil healthy. So my question would be, now that we have had a conversation and agree that, that wouldn't happen anymore, then can whatever has happened just stay, especially where it's not a washing machine or something like that that's gonna be forever, and just not have it happen anymore? Because really, I don't want the other people to start thinking they can throw everything over there either, because it is a wetland.
Yeah.
And we have had a professor from Bridgewater State, I was at college then, but he was amazed at all the special things that are in that property. So it is good to value the wetlands, etc. And I know there's also a meadow in there, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be my request for the committee. It's a whole learning process, I think, for everybody.
So what's there now, whatever you push back there, whatever's there, you just want left?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for the record, I did not push anything.
Well, whatever,
No one
whatever's
proved
back
it.
there now,
Oh,
Just
I
agree.
understand,
she
and
doesn't want anything done, so don't worry
I
about it.
understand, but then he says, I put trash. I did not put any trash.
Okay.
Whatever's
We
back
had the
there,
discussion
if
with
it
Mrs.
wasn't,
Metcalf.
I put grass cutting, leaves, because that's where I make my compost. I put my leaves and my grass cuttings, and then when it starts to rot, as a matter of fact, I want to go back there and cover up my garden. But I don't want to go back there and you go, oh,
So-
look, he's doing it. I'm not doing anything.
So is
I'm
your
not
garden,
bothered.
on your property or is it on her property?
Oh, no, the garden's on my property.
Okay.
The only thing I put back there are the grass cuttings, and from what I understand, he informed, well, I didn't know who owned it. But first of all, when I bought the house, I asked, well, who owns the property back here? And they said, well, it's conservation land. Why? I said, well, I don't want anybody building behind me. I'd rather have it like this. I like the woods. And when the agent here, Mr. Delano, came to my property, he said there was an issue. I said, well, who owns the property? He says, well, I don't know. I said, you don't know if the town or owned? And Tim Hay, he's the chair, he said 6 feet away, and he doesn't know that his in-laws own the property? So then he,
I'm not Tim Hay.
no,
I don't know.
Tim Hay, who chairs. you
Right, that's
said
why I
this is
excused
5
myself.
feet from him, and you
Yeah, that's
didn't
why he
know
had-
that
okay.
his in-laws.
So
Okay, so he's
So-
on.
Something?
how, how would I know who owns it until I know where we're talking about on the face of the earth? So I go out and I look at a site because I was informed about your
And-
activity.
And before you go out, you don't investigate if anyone does own the property.
Well, I knew that you owned it because I looked at your property record card. It says 245 South Street
Right.
is owned by you.
And before, you said, I don't
So
know who
when I
owns
go
it.
out to
You
a
don't know
site,
who owns it, but you know it's
so I go out
wetlands.
to a site to inspect what's going on, and then I find out that you've been doing things on the abutting property. So I go back to the office, and then I do the research on the abutting property.
But
So
the-
it's not all up here in my mind, so I don't know what your issue is
Well,
with
the
me
issue
not
is
knowing
also
who
is when
owned
I
it.
said,
Okay.
well, who's complaining? And you said, well, we got a call,
So,
and we don't
That-
know.
that-
And
that's
I
the
said,
truth.
is it a male or a female? You said, I
So,
don't know.
sir,
And
what
then
was the
later,
issue
I
with me
found
not
out
knowing
that
who owned
these
that
people
property?
own-
Because I did
I
not
mean,
know
all-
where it was.
And you're saying, well, you did this, you. I
Okay,
didn't
Ms.
do any of
Metcalf
that.
would like to have a.
I spoke to this young lady right here, her husband,
She like to
and
have
she
say
said I
something.
could dump leaves and grass. I said, that's all I'm gonna put right in that pile for my compost. And then I guess
Okay,
you spoke to
okay,
her,
all right,
and
all right,
then
all
it
right.
all
Oh,
changed over
Quiet,
again.
quiet. Let Ms. Metcalf
Okay,
say
so
something.
what we agreed on, basically, is you're gonna keep your compost and your leaves on your side of the fence. It's my property and that's what I'm asking, and the issue is, I would like I said, if you put grass clippings over the fence and everybody else does, and that's the bottom line, I'm just asking for that, and I think the other issues, I don't think we need to argue about. I think
Oh, I don't
it's a-
wanna
I
argue,
think
ma'am. It's just like, I mean, I'm into
Okay.
the ecosystem also, ma'am, and I assure you, that's all it was, just like your husband when he makes his compost pile. It doesn't do any
Okay,
harm.
all right,
And that's,
So
Right.
so I think we can just stop there.
we can just,
Stop
so I
yeah.
don't know, well.
all right, enough is enough, all right.
No,
Either that, you're gonna,
I'm here being,
we're
like,
explaining
charged that I'm
something, we're
violating
explaining something of
wetland.
what's gonna be done.
I know.
Ms.
but I'm
Metcalf
also
already
like-
explained to you, and I'm gonna say something that,
but
this is it.
I'm
Don't-
not gonna have my say.
You've already had your say, I've already
Well, I
heard
mean,
this from the last
He
time.
talks about the.
John did
what I
not
did
say
with
anything
the
to you
leaves and
about this.
everything, but there's also,
Okay, I'd
there's
like to-
drainage. There's drainage going in, and that's why that's wet. The
It's
drainage
wetland,
on
and
the
that's where it
street
is.
is going right into that wetland. it wouldn't be wetland if those drains from the town weren't flooding that back.
That's
The
not,
land is
that, yeah.
wetland, that's the way it is.
It's not just water that distinguishes wetland, it's the soils that are there. So it's not about
Okay,
what's there.
But leaves and grass are not gonna disturb the ecosystem
It does.
They
whatsoever.
do.
It's gonna,
They
they're
do.
gonna dam
They
up,
change
they're
the
gonna
soil.
dam up the water and everything like that and prevent water
Yeah.
from flowing.
And they change the
But I mean,
soil.
that's-
You are
in other words,
obviously-
it's now, I have to go to the town and dump all my grass and leaves.
You can
But compost it
you can
also
compost
at
them
your
in your
house.
own property.
Compost.
I'd like to make a recommendation.
Yep, good.
Because of dumping stuff into the wetlands is unpermitted activity, I would recommend the commission issue a cease and desist on him dumping things over the fence and on the Metcalf property. I would have gone further and suggested he remove it, but Mrs. Metcalf
Yep.
is okay with it. So my only recommendation is issue him a cease and desist from further dumping and disturbing that area on the other side of the property line.
Okay, I will
Now, why would I need that?
issue,
She's already asked
I
me
will
not to.
issue a cease and desist
Yeah, see?
for, was it the 194 South, no, that's not it. Where is it?
245
245
South Street.
South Street. Go ahead.
Make a
Make a
motion.
motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Qualified.
Okay. And that's all. So you understand what's going on then?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I
Okay.
understand what's going on.
Okay. You're happy, Miss Metcalf, Mrs. Metcalf, with what?
I'm happy if no clippings come over and I'm
Okay.
gonna keep the ones that he has there, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
I would like it to be.
Left everything the way it is then. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have an update for 426 East Center Street, the sludge. Have we gotten anything back from?
We received a court-ordered search warrant. I served it with a patrolman from the West Bridgewater Police Department and went out and took many pictures of wetland disturbances and stockpiles of sludge. So in the meantime, I heard back that there, from a reliable source, that there is an engineer, a botanist, and a surveyor who is going to be doing work on that property to try to come up with a solution, an answer. I'm not sure exactly what the scope of their work will be, but rather than letting this drag on, I'm recommending that the commission require the owner to submit a notice of intent or an ANRAD 1 month from tonight's meeting. So that would be December 3rd.
All right,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
moving aside, all's in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Well, the process works, it's slow. It seems to at least allow us on to see what the complaint was. All right, next we have 265 East Center Street, project change. What do we got?
So, just for the record, Josh from JK Holmgren Engineering. So, there's an existing order of conditions that was issued earlier this year. When we came back for a change that we made changes from the zoning board. So we came to inform you guys of that. At that meeting, we asked the commission leniency on, I believe it's condition number 24, special condition 24, which says that before the commission can sign off on the building permit that the buffer zone restoration area be planted. So, and that was, and you guys approved that. And I believe the deadline was basically the middle of October. Well, that's come and gone, and we're pushing November right now. So, Victor took, and just your normal delays in getting a contractor lined up and all that stuff, getting stuff ready to start construction. So he's got a contractor on board now. We staked out the silt sock and we certified that it was in place. This silt sock that we staked out was the one basically at the wetlands line. And then 50 feet from there is obviously the 50-foot no disturb, and we've got proposed 50-foot wide restoration area that's gonna need to be planted. So what's happened is the contractor went out and started cleaning up that 50-foot area. There was pipes, concrete, just construction debris sitting there. So he started taking some of that material out, just because it's going to have to be taken out anyway to start to restore that area. So in our mind, it made more sense to clean that area up, then come back and add the silt sock at the 50-foot, and then do the plantings instead of putting the silt sock and then having to go back in, remove the material, and then restore it, just because it didn't really make sense in our mind. So anyway, John DeLeo was out there, I believe it was last Monday, might have been Tuesday, I didn't do that, but he was out there and issued a verbal stop order just for this work. We went out a couple of days later to go over what happened with the contractor, myself, and John, and Victor, our client as well. So what our request from the commission tonight is just another extension of these plantings, which will be done within the next month. The area will be stabilized. If the temperature drops, it said it's supposed to snow at some point this week, which is crazy. But if we get a cold spell, we'll just we'll stabilize the area with mulch, leave that for the winter, and once springtime comes around, do the plantings when it's a better.
Yeah, we've already had a frost a couple times.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be too good of a time to do it now.
So, during the discussions of what was happening at the site, it became clear that they had a whole bunch of steel and an old trailer and other things that were in the 50-foot mitigation area. And that's why it's being replanted, because it got disturbed. The issue was providing some type of barrier to keep the construction vehicles out of that area, even after putting down the loom today that I saw there. They have a barrier up that prevents the machinery and the equipment from getting in there and constantly disturbing it. So I spoke with the contractor supervisor today, and he is planning to have it hydroseeded with a tackifier to keep it stable over the winter. It's fairly flat. The silt sock that's along the edge of the wetlands that was originally there to protect the wetlands is the barrier just before the wetland, so I don't see any migration going towards the wetland. And so I'm recommending that they don't plant this fall, because it's getting later and colder, and that they do it all in the spring. So I'm going to recommend another minor project change in allowing that to happen. And I believe at this point, everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what needs to be done. That area is going to be protected, so I think there's no further issues, and just let them go ahead and build it.
Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to recommend allowing a minor project change for spring planting.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. All right. There's an FYI that the Bay Circuit Alliance Annual Membership Meeting, December 7th, is a luncheon from 11:30 to 2. If anybody's interested, pass it around to take a look. Let's see what else we have. And before we continued,
My name is Victor Carrera, I own the property. I like to do an effort to get everything done with the conservation. Can we get the foundation going? I gotta get the building.
Yeah,
Yeah, yep.
that's what they allowed to know.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Brooks Place. Whitney Road. A warrant. Supplies.
Did I sign it? No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Mileage.
I just thought I'd go out with somebody else.
So is that 3 warrants?
That was South Street.
3 warrant items
Brooks Place, order condition,
Thank you.
and the order of conditions and certificate of compliance.
and the COC, okay, thanks.
And I think, does anybody else have anything else? John, anything?
Nothing?
So what do they plan on for Charles Street? Is 1, 2, 3,
4 lots.
4 lots?
Yep. And
When do they plan on hoping to get this going?
For Charles Street?
Yeah.
Right away,
So they get the lot sold?
probably.
or under contract.
Under
Or,
contract to somebody else?
the only thing we did discuss that you were here for was finding out between the town and the developer about the corner of River Street and Charles Street, if there's an actual drain that the town put in where the old chicken,
Foundation
yeah,
is.
the foundation is. Some people think the town did put some type of a drainage structure in there at one point.
Even if it is, it'd be blocked right now, I would imagine, right?
Well, if it is, then it needs to get fixed before, because they're proposing to just grade right to the street and remove the stone structure, and if they plug a drain up that's there,
Plug
it's-
anyways.
that area floods when you get a big rain coming down Charlton River, it all collects, and
Yeah.
so that was the only comment that we really needed to maybe address.
Take a look underneath the curb.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Say all those in favor?
All right.
7:50?